Hey y'all, it's your girl Chastity J, and I'm back with another word from God. Okay, so I know looking at the title, y'all probably was like, this girl done lost her mind. I know God did not say that. Well, I was taking a shower, and that's exactly what he said. And he gave me the title for a video and said, tell my children, F them. And I was like, Jesus, what? You want me to get on these people internet and say what? He was like, F stands for forgiveness. Forgiveness, y'all. Not the other word that I'm sure you was thinking and probably thought I was tripping or something. But God said somebody needed to hear this, number one. Maybe that's why he wanted me to title it, Tell Them. God said, F them. Somebody needed to really hear this word. So please use your spiritual ears to hear it and take it back to God and get confirmation if this was a word for you. I'm sure it is a word for you. All right, y'all. So God was telling me while I was taking a shower, he said, somebody needs to know that they need to forgive. F stands for forgiveness, all of that. Somebody needs to forgive, whether it is your parents, and I think he was really trying to lean towards forgiveness of your parents, because there's so many people that hold so much hate in their heart and do not talk to their parents. Lately, I've been meeting people as I've been networking and going to like different events while being in Dallas. And so many people, I'm so shocked at so many people that do not have a relationship with their parents. And a lot of it comes from childhood trauma, y'all. Now, I know, I know that you probably went through a lot growing up. You probably wasn't raised by your parents, or your parents probably did some things that they thought were right, or maybe they didn't think at all, but they thought it was for the good of their children, or maybe they were a little selfish. But do believe you need to forgive your parents. You need to forgive people in general. Because as I've said in other videos, I'm a true believer. You cannot have love and hate in your heart at the same time. You can't. You cannot. And if you are a Christian, you are a Christian. You are a Christian. I don't know how many times I need to say it. You should want to have love in your heart at all times, not love and hate. Be like, okay, I love them, but I hate them over there. No. You should love your neighbor. It says it in the Bible. Love thy neighbor as I love thyself. So you should not want to hate anyone. You need to forgive people. You need to forgive. First of all, you need to forgive yourself. Let's start there. Starting, as step one. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for anything you may have done. Maybe you didn't set any boundaries or things that you didn't know. What you didn't know, you didn't know. Okay? You need to forgive yourself for allowing people to take advantage of you, treat you just any kind of way. Just forgive yourself in general for whatever it may be. Let's start there. After you forgive yourself, then you can forgive others. And God really wanted me to talk about forgiving your parents. I have old videos talking about this, talking about forgiveness, but he's been wanting me to reopen that can of worms and talk about forgiveness and healing again. For those that do not know, I am in school to become a therapist, marriage, family, couple counselor. So I will be licensed in about the next year and a half. But God wants y'all to forgive your parents. Let's just talk about it, y'all. Come in here, sit on my couch, sit on my black couch, okay? Sit down, and let's talk about it. Your parents may have did things to you or your siblings growing up that you may not have understood. You to this day, you still may not understand. And as I've learned, it's not for you to understand. Don't try to stress yourself out or make yourself upset trying to understand some of the things that they did. I learned that my parents only did what was done to them ultimately. everybody has to learn from somebody. So you have to learn from somebody, take those tools and either enhance it, or you're going to you do the same thing. As you look at it, there's a lot of generational things that families do, and or that you do, that you're like, well, we've always done it like this in our family. And not to say whether it's right or wrong, but it was things that was passed down from generation to generation, from your great grandma to your grandma to, your mother, then down to you. That's the same thing as trauma. Generational trauma. So some things, and I'll tell y'all, God is allowing me to tell y'all just like a little snippet of some things that I dealt with when it came to childhood, and like some trauma, I guess, that I've experienced generationally, is, and I've had this conversation with my dad before being an adult. I would say within the last year or so. My dad wasn't emotionally available. So he loved us and he loves us, but he had that whole tough love. And once I actually told him and broke it down to him, some things that I learned in therapy as to why I was dating the same type of men that were emotionally unavailable, emotionally abusive, and mean and nasty, rude and stuff. And I thought that's what love was. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I settled and didn't set any boundaries because I thought that's what love was. And that's because the first man in my life was not emotionally available. Of course, we knew our daddy loved us. He did everything. He took care of us, put food on the table, all that good stuff. But there was no intimacy, like hugging, there was no nurturing from him. And I think nurturing from both parents is so important, mother and father, because the type of love you receive from your parents is going to go into your own adult relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships. So my dad wasn't really affectionate. That's the word I'm looking for. He was not affectionate whatsoever. And my adult relationships was like that. It was like begging for affection left and right, because my mother was the complete opposite. My mama loved us, not just telling us she loved us every day, but she showed us, she kissed us, she hugged us, she nurtured us. And of course, it's expected of a mother, but not all mamas do that or learn that, was taught that, or treated that way. But my mother did the complete opposite. So we felt the love from my mother. There was not a question or a doubt in our mind. It was not a doubt from my dad either. Don't get me wrong. I knew my daddy loved me. I was always a daddy's girl. And still is. Well, now I'm a mama and a daddy's girl, but still is. But my dad was not affectionate with us, and that went into my adult relationship. So like I said, I was settled and think that that's what love is, because the lack that I missed in my most important childhood years, from not receiving affection from my father, is what went into my adult relationships. Then on the other hand, when it came to my both of my parents are great. They're amazing. I just love them both to death. My mother, she was very submissive, and always have been. And y'all, we'll go a little more deeper into things later. But I watched and I learned, and that's how I was when it came to my adult relationships. Very submissive to men that didn't deserve the submission, men that didn't play their role in the dynamic that I needed. So, overgave, did the most up front, didn't make them earn this submission and things in catering to them. So, I would get kind of done how I was done, whatever. We ain't gonna go into that. But I say that to say, I could have held that against my father and be like, because of you, I've had so many failed romantic relationships, being an adult. But I didn't. Instead, I had the conversation with my daddy and I told him, I was in a 10-year relationship. Daddy, I realized why I stayed and why I thought that was love. Despite the fact I was emotionally abused and this, that, and the other is because of you. It's because of your lack of emotion and affection that you did not give me. And I didn't realize how that affected me. And my dad was like, well, I'm sorry. I only did what I was taught. Like, that's how my parents were with me, my mother and my father. Neither one of them, they rarely said they loved me. They rarely gave me any type of affection or nurturing. He got that from his sisters, but not from his parents. And so, we had that conversation. I forgave my daddy. I'm like, we had the conversation of, he only did what he was taught and how he was raised and how he grew up. That's a lot of our parents, y'all. I'm only using that as an example, but whatever it is that you went through with your parents, a lot of it came from how they were taught. If your parents abandoned you, whether it was emotionally or physically, it may be because their parents abandoned them in some type of way. A lot of people have a lot of anxious abandonment issues and attachment issues and stuff. Is because their parents abandoned them and their parents abandoned them. However that may have been. Parents that may have been addicts or something. It may be because they were exposed to that at a young age. So you can't get upset with your parents because that's what they were exposed to. You could sit here and fuss and yell all day and say they should have known right from wrong and all that kind of stuff. Ideally, we would say that. We would say common sense is coming, but we all know common sense is not coming. But you cannot, unless you get the proper help and the proper support and get retrained, they think that that is correct. They think that that's what they were taught and that's what they saw coming up. Same thing for you. Nobody's sitting here pointing out the fact that you're not the best parent or, you're lacking in certain areas. You can always change. You can always learn. You can always grow. Same thing for your parents. So I always tell people, give your parents grace. Give them grace. They did the best that they could. And whether that was a little or a lot, they did the best that they could. Granted, the hands that they were dealt. Excuse me. Give them grace. Give them grace and forgive them. And forgiveness does not mean that you have to act like nothing ever happened, that you have to be BFFs with someone, whether it's a friend, an ex, or, whoever, your parents. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you even have to talk to them. Forgiveness is for yourself. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. So until you are ready to forgive them, you may deal with a lot of issues, a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness because you didn't forgive. You didn't forgive other people. If you look at somebody and the first thing that come to your mind is something negative or nasty, like, then you need to forgive them, okay? But y'all need to practice that and work on it. And you can, even if you're afraid to verbalize it, you can send them a text. You can write them a letter. I tell people all the time, it is therapeutic to journal. It is therapeutic to write a letter. Write a letter telling your parents that you forgive them and mail it to them. You don't even have to verbally speak to them if you're not ready for that. I believe eventually you should try to get to that point. But, to each his own. But you have to forgive. I say this all the time. Your parents only did what they knew, how they was raised, how they was taught. Ideally, we will want for them to have that type of conversation with us. And, sometimes people feel like they're owed an explanation or owed an apology. And it's nice and it would be nice. Don't get your hopes up and have that expectation because a lot of that comes from growth and healing. So if they haven't forgiven their parents or forgiven themselves and did their inner work, don't expect that conversation. Don't expect an apology and all of that because everybody has to do their own inner work. It don't matter. Healing does not have an age. Your mama can be 75 years old and start doing her inner work because she wants that relationship with you. She wants to heal for herself, her grandkids, her children, whatever. But keep that in mind. Just don't have that type of expectation or don't expect a certain outcome or result out of it. But do it for yourself. Don't do it for the other person. But more of the story, y'all, and I hope y'all will use your spiritual ears to hear this word, catch this word, because God wants y'all to forgive your parents. I see it all the time on social media. People still talking about the things that their parents did to them. And I hate to hear that. I really do. I empathize with you guys. It's so unfortunate, and I hate that you experienced that, but you still got to forgive your parents. You still got to forgive your parents, your grandparents, whoever may have raised you. Even if your parents, you never met your parents, still forgive them. Still forgive them, because you don't know the full story. You don't know what they went through. You don't know the type of sacrifices that they had to make, the things that they had to do or could not do because they were trying to do what was best in the moment for you and your siblings, or even for themselves to put their family in a better position. Those that maybe had parents that divorced and stuff, you got to forgive them. I know you probably felt abandoned and went through a lot of different emotions and things and felt like you were abandoned when you maybe needed them the most. It's unfortunate, y'all, but we're too old and too grown to not forgive people. Do your work. Don't forever just be bitter. And then also, when you're forgiving people, don't go into it with a negative attitude and be like, it don't matter, or they're not going to receive it and all that kind of stuff. Stop being so nasty and negative, okay? Be very optimistic and go into the situation with a positive outlook, a positive mindset, and say, they may receive it. I just had this conversation with my mom the other night. You do not know when people are doing their inner work. You do not, even if they do the smallest thing, they are doing some type of inner work, healing and stuff. It just because they didn't broadcast it to you or show you or post it on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, any of that, Twitter, they didn't post it out there and blast it for the world to know that they're doing their inner work or doing some healing. That doesn't mean that they're not doing it. They don't owe you an explanation and have to tell you like, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. They don't owe you that, because that's something between them and God. But you need to give people grace. You need to give people grace and stop being so negative and just expecting the worst out of situations. Be positive and just, you never know. It may be the smallest thing. They may be so used to being a caregiver or pouring into other folks versus pouring into themselves. And once they actually realize I need to focus on me and pour into myself more versus worried about everybody else, they start doing their work. And it may be just the smallest. They may be taking baby steps. Healing, we're forever healing and forever growing and elevating and changing. So give these folks grace. I give everybody grace. That's something I didn't do in the past. And because I was bitter, I hadn't done any type of healing. But now I give everybody grace. I take it for what it is. What people show me who they are is what I accept. And I allow, because over time, you can only wear a facade for so long. That gets exhausting and you can't keep up that. You can't keep it up. People will send their representative all the time to suppress or hide things that they're dealing with. But over time, it's going to be exposed. So I give everybody grace and just take it for what it is at face value and be like, hey, I never know. You never know what people are doing behind closed doors. Just like you never know what people are dealing with behind closed doors. You never know what God has told them to do, what type of healing work or things that God is instilling in them. So, more of the story, give people grace. Forgive your parents. Forgive those that may have done you wrong, abandoned you, hurt you, whatever. Forgive. God said F them. Forgive them. Forgive them. F them. Forgive them. Okay, y'all. Not the other F. Don't do the opposite. Forgive them. But as always, y'all, take this word back to God. Please get confirmation from him. I hope you receive this. I hope you ponder on it, think on it, pray on it, and ask God, who is it that you may need to forgive? I am going to post a video whenever God tells me to and give me permission to, on some tips for healing to help you guys overcome some trauma and things that you may still be dealing with. But please, please, please take it back to God. pray, forgive people, give people grace. And, as I said before, you cannot have love and hate in your heart at the same time. Pick one. And as always, I am a lover, not a fighter. And I love love. And I think life is just so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that God just continues to bless us daily with life and daily with, the small things that are so important. Being able to function and fully, use all of our limbs without any additional assistance or anything, having blood flow through our veins and arteries and oxygen and all that good stuff. So I'm so grateful and I love life, and I just appreciate God for just giving me grace. And because I have have not always been this person or this version of Chastity. So I'm so grateful that God gave me grace and is allowing me to do the things that I'm doing, and is ministering to me and prophesying to me to help others that may have been where I was at one point. But I hope y'all have a great day. It is Thursday, y'all. Tomorrow is Friday. Again, take this back to God, and I pray that you really think about this word and think about who you need to forgive, and forgive your parents. And I hope y'all have a great day. Oh, and thank you to all of my subscribers, seasoned subscribers, new subscribers. Thank you to everyone. I truly appreciate you guys. I appreciate God for giving me this opportunity and this platform to engage, help other people, give people encouragement to continue pushing forward, and just, be a vessel to his sheep. But bye, y'all.